Hi, I'm Dr. Marcy Zwelling. I'm an internist in Southern California, and I want to talk to you today about heart attacks. God forbid a heart attack. I think there are two things that the media has absolutely driven us crazy about. Well, maybe three: heart attack, stroke, and cancer. Let's talk about heart attack today. What is a heart attack? A heart attack, first of all, is less about the heart and more about the blood vessels. So in order to talk about a heart attack, we have to talk about blood vessels. Let me draw you a little picture. And it is just a little picture. Blood vessel. All kinds of stuff running through the blood vessel. You've got red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, and you also have these molecules called cholesterol molecules. Now this is a little bit confusing, but I am going to simplify it. The molecule that you commonly hear about, cholesterol molecule, we call it LDL, for instance, or HDL. That actually represents a suitcase. It's a suitcase that contains cholesterol. It isn't the cholesterol itself. LDL is theoretically what we call bad cholesterol, but the only reason for that is because it is the molecule that carries cholesterol to the blood vessel wall. The cholesterol that you have running in your bloodstream comes from the cholesterol that you eat and the cholesterol that you make. In fact, 80% of the cholesterol in your body is what you make, not just what you eat. So after this is over, you can go have a couple eggs if you like. In any event, the LDL cholesterol has some receptors on it, and in some people, it will bind to the wall of the blood vessel. In so doing, it oxidizes and it delivers cholesterol into the blood vessel wall. This bit of cholesterol is a foreign body. The body doesn't recognize it. It doesn't want it. And it sends in all of its team of fighters, those things we call inflammatory cells. It sends in white blood cells. It sends in white blood cells called macrophages. And those white blood cells come in and eat up, literally eat up the cholesterol so that your body is not exposed to it. At that point, several things can happen, and a lot of this is depending upon timing and genetics. Sometimes what will happen is that will just basically go away, and it's kind of interesting how that happens. We have HDL molecules, good cholesterol. I call them the trash trucks. And if a trash truck comes around and takes this cholesterol out of the macrophage, you're done. You've got the trash truck that's come and cleaned up your house, and if you're a kid watching this, your parents will never know you made a mess. And that's okay. But what happens when that doesn't happen? When you don't have the HDL to do that, or the HDL is busy doing something else, or you've overwhelmed the system, you can actually get some inflammation, almost a sore in your blood vessel wall. Now here's where this gets important. You've all had sores on your body. You've had a sore and it heals eventually. But what happens when that new sore, when you flick off the little clot that's on it, it starts to bleed again, doesn't it? We've all been in that circumstance. Well, what happens here when this little sore ruptures or somebody flicks off the top of it? All of the products in here go into the blood vessel itself, and the body screams. It literally screams and brings all kinds of inflammatory products, and you have a clot. That's a heart attack. Let me make some analogies that I think are important and that may drive this problem home. When you're driving down the street and you're in a major highway, 8-lane highway, and you see signs that say, problem ahead, we're going to narrow the road. You have time to make some decisions. You've got your cell phone, and if you're not in California, you can use your cell phone in your car, and you can call where you're going to be, and you can say, I'm going to be a little bit late. No problem. You can slow down, go with the traffic. You can take a detour. You can take a side street around where the repairs are going to be. Still, no problem. You will eventually get from point A to point B, even if it's a little late. The analogy that I make with the blood vessel is with if indeed you have some of this plaque forming, these inflammatory sores on the blood vessel wall, if indeed those sores inhibit the flow to some degree, your blood still has time to get from A to B. And the body similarly has a wonderful process of making what we call collaterals that go around the area that needs to be repaired. So no problem. Nobody is short of breath. You don't have any pain, and the oxygen that's being carried in the blood vessel through the red blood cells gets to where it needs to be. The muscles are get enough oxygen. Everybody's happy. Maybe a little slower. You might have to walk a little slower. You may have to sit down for a moment, but you get there. Now let's use another analogy. You're going down that same highway and everything is open. It looks marvelous, but right along the side of the highway, right along the brim, maybe there's a lady fixing her tire. Maybe that lady is good looking, and the truck driver in front of you looks over to look at her, and he gets a little distracted. He jackknifes his truck. He jackknifes his truck. Absolutely blocks the whole road. There's no time for you to call ahead. There's no time for you to take a detour. You are stuck in traffic, or God forbid, you could be stuck in the accident itself, and you will never get from point A to point B. That is a heart attack. That is the person who the day before was in his doctor's office and everything was fine. The highway was open. Everybody was flying. But somehow that little inflammatory process on the side in the blood vessel wall got disrupted and got the pro-inflammatory stuff, the stuff that the body didn't want, into the blood vessel wall, and the body had to react. So the lesson to learn here is that it is not just your cholesterol that's important. Obviously, if you have a lot of cholesterol, you're going to have a greater chance of having more of these inflammatory things. However, if you have an inflammatory thing and it's stable, and you've got time for the body to form collaterals around it, you're never going to have a heart attack. If it's unstable and if it's ongoing, that is a potential disaster. The question you need to ask your doctor is not, what is my cholesterol? While that is important, the bottom line is, do I have inflammation? Do I have, I call it schmutz in my blood vessel wall? What is my real risk of a heart attack? So, if you have a family history of heart disease, if you have just a personal concern, maybe you've even had a heart attack before, you need to see your doctor. Make sure, obviously, that your cholesterol is okay. But bottom line is, make sure that there's no inflammation that could rupture. That is the disaster. That's the impending disaster. Again, that's the gentleman, the story you hear about so often of the person who thought he was healthy, and it turned out that he died on the heart attack because there was no time to save his life. In another lecture, we're going to talk about different kinds of cholesterol, and in a lecture after that, we're going to talk about what you can do to save your neighbor's life if, God forbid, that should happen to you. Thanks for listening. Now, go have a hot fudge sundae.